Everybody, we're going to record the talk this morning, so you might have just heard the recording request permission come up there. Very warm welcome to everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I think we're just waiting for a few more people to join. And while we're waiting for anybody else, it'd be really nice, as usual, we kindly ask you if you wouldn't mind typing into the chat function where you're viewing us from this morning. It's always really interesting to know where people are, whether in this country or sometimes we get people from abroad. So that would be lovely to know. Oh, we've got somebody from New Zealand. I think that might be Martin that we all know. That's great to see you. Got people from Portsmouth, Manchester, Hertfordshire. Great. So there will, as usual, we'll have our talk, which should be around sort of half an hour, and then there should be time at the end for questions there. So, and I think most people are probably with us. Oh, hello, Jane from Italy. Great to have you join us again. Right, I think we'll probably make a start then. So again, for those of you that weren't just joined us, thank you so much for being with us today for our talk on the Society's Platinum Prints. There was a talk I gave last year on another platinum print by Frederick Collier, Love Among the Ruins. So this is a different set that we've got about the Holy Grail tapestries. And I think it might help, just before we start, if people can kindly turn off your cameras. That'll probably help our internet. That would be great. Lovely. So I think we'll make a start. I'll just move on to our first slide. In 1890, Morris and Company were commissioned to weave the most ambitious set of tapestries in their history. The stunning Holy Grail tapestries depict scenes from the legend of King Arthur and have been described as, beyond doubt, the most significant tapestry series woven in the 19th century. The Society has a wonderful collection of platinum prints of these tapestries by the renowned pre-Raphaelite photographer Frederick Collier, all in their original and beautiful Morris and Company oak frames, as you can see here. In this morning's talk, we'll explore the history of these tapestries and learn the fascinating story of the search for the Holy Grail as depicted through the collaborative efforts of William Morris, Edward Burne-Jones, and John Henry Durrell. So here we have the Society's platinum prints all grouped together, but there is as you can see, there are several tapestries, but they're only in the three frames, have been divided up into three frames like this. The Society, as I mentioned, also has other platinum prints by Frederick Collier, Morris and Company works, but also of paintings by Burne-Jones, including Love Among the Ruins, which was the subject of our talk last year. But we also have Burne-Jones's The Annunciation and The Mirror of Venus. Platinum prints are photographic prints made by a monochrome printing process, obviously involving platinum, as the name suggests. And as I've said, they're all in their original Morris and Company frames. Each print is mounted in a numbered frame and labelled with Morris and Company, 449 Oxford Street, West, where the firm had their showroom until 1917. It's thought that they were previously hung in the Morris and Company showrooms, obviously in Oxford Street, either to advertise products that could be purchased from Morris and Company or bought as items themselves as works of art in their own right, as tapestries that they depict would have been out of the reach of most people except the very wealthiest of Morris's clients. And we do know that there are other copies of these of the Holy Grail tapestries that were produced. So it could well be that they were produced for sale in their own right. Hollier was mostly known for photographing artists linked to the Pre-Raphaelites and the arts and crafts movement. Under the patronage of Frederick Leighton, Hollier photographed the drawings and paintings of various artists associated with the Pre-Raphaelites, including Rossetti, Simeon Solomon, and Edward Burne-Jones. Hollier took several photographs of Burne-Jones and Morris, as well as their families. Unlike Morris, as many of you will know, Burne-Jones did not come from a wealthy family, but they became lifelong friends after meeting at university. When Morris founded his company, Burne-Jones became a partner in the firm, designing tapestries, stained glass, and tiles. Our platinum prints, representing the Holy Grail tapestries, are a wonderful collaboration between Morris and Burne-Jones, and also John Henry Durrell. Tapestry was one of the first of the textile arts to attract Morris. As a young boy, he had been struck by what he called a room hung with faded greenery at Queen Elizabeth's hunting lodge in Epping Forest, near Morris's childhood home. It was to epitomise his admiration of the medievalised domestic interior. Tapestries were traditionally woven by hand on vertical looms or horizontal looms, and the centre of European tapestry production had been established in medieval Flanders, which included the famous tapestry works at Arras. The tapestries produced in this region made a great impression on Morris, first seen by him in 1854 on a vacation to France, and a year later with Burne-Jones. Morris went on to revive the art of tapestry weaving, which had declined in popularity from the 1700s, but a renewed interest in medieval art in the Victorian era led to a renewed interest and appreciation of what Morris wrote in his 1888 essay on textiles was, "The noblest of the weaving arts is tapestry. Special excellence can be expected from it. Depth of tone, richness of colour, and exquisite graduation of tints are easily obtained in tapestry, and it also demands that crispness and abundance of detail, which was the special characteristic of fully developed, beautiful medieval art." As with other crafts, Morris went on to teach himself the art of tapestry weaving, as there was no one in medieval England who had this practical knowledge. This endearing caricature shows Morris demonstrating weaving with the following inscription: "I should like to see him at work. Edward Burne-Jones, ARA, November 1st, 1888. The first Arts and Crafts exhibition took place in 88 at the New Gallery in Regent Street and was accompanied by a series of lectures by arts and crafts practitioners. Morris spoke on tapestry and also gave a practical demonstration of weaving, inspiring this affectionate cartoon by his great friend Burne-Jones. Morris's first tapestry, Acanthus and Vine, was woven in 1879 in his Kelmscott House ground floor bedroom. Over a single summer, getting up very early, it took no less than 516 hours to weave. Morris would then pass on his knowledge to his employees, with boys and young men being trained as weavers once the tapestry workshops had been established in 1881 at Merton Abbey. Burne-Jones became the company's chief designer of the figures for tapestries, with Morris and Durrell providing decorative details, particularly for borders, pattern clothing, and floral backgrounds, and foregrounds, which we'll see shortly. After Burne-Jones's drawings were photographed to full size, tracings were placed on the tapestry looms for the weavers to refer to. The wools and silks used by the weavers were specially dyed at Merton Abbey using natural plant and vegetable dyes. Several tapestries were created prior to the Holy Grail series, although the Grail tapestries are widely considered the company's most significant order. They represent a subject that had meant a great deal to Morris and Burne-Jones since they were both young men. The friends were devoted followers of Thomas Malory's La Morte d'Arthur. While undergraduates at Oxford, they spent a great deal of time reading the book, which Morris had purchased for them both, due to Burne-Jones being unable to afford a copy of his own. Georgiana Burne-Jones recalled, "Sometimes I think that the book never can have been loved as it was by these two men. With Edward, it became literally a part of himself. Its strength and beauty, its mystical religion, and the noble chivalry of action, the world of lost history and romance in the names of people and places. It was his own birthright upon which he entered. In particular, it was the story of the search for the Grail which appealed to the two friends, with Morris believing it was the most beautiful and complete episode of the legends. The pursuit of the Grail became the main quest of King Arthur and his knights in their search for spiritual redemption, and had first appeared in Cretan de Troyes' The Story of the Grail in 1180. Just as was the case with medieval tapestries, interest in the Arthurian legends had declined after the Middle Ages, but the medieval revival in the 19th century saw a new awareness of the story, particularly through Malory's 1470 La Morte d'Arthur, printed by William Caxton in 1485. Dissatisfied with the spiritual life in Oxford, where both young men had been studying holy orders, Morris and Burne-Jones resolved to begin a life of art. This was expressed as early as 1857, when they were invited by Dante Gabriel Rossetti to participate in the scheme to decorate the Oxford Union. The subjects of the murals were taken from Malory. I won't go into detail here about this decorative scheme, as it was the subject of an earlier Coffee Morning talk available on our YouTube channel. Subsequently, Burne-Jones continued to paint scenes from the Arthurian legends, and Morris's publications were also inspired by these heroic tales. The founding of Morris's firm also provided a new platform to represent these subjects, enabling Morris and Burne-Jones to return to the legends that had so inspired them. At university, that was therefore welcomed when the wealthy Australian mining engineer William Knox Darcy commissioned the company to create a set of Holy Grail tapestries for the dining room of his home, Stanmore Hall in Middlesex in 1888. The commission involved the decoration of the first two floors, and after discussion with Burne-Jones, it was Morris who recommended that the quest was eminently suitable as the focus for the dining room. Designed to be viewed 13 feet above the ground, the tapestries themselves are an impressive 8 feet high, with the longest panel, the attainment, at a striking 25 feet. The series took 4 years to weave and were a costly £3,500. The first tapestry is the Knights of the Round Table summoned to the quest by a strange damsel. The scene is Pentecost morning at the Round Table, where the damsel of the Grail appears and summons all the knights to the adventure. And suddenly writing appears on the empty chair over on the left-hand side there, which was called the Siege Perilous. It's the chair draped with cloth, and it foretells the arrival of the Knights of the Holy Grail. Only the most virtuous knight may sit in that chair. Lancelot is seated opposite the chair, and he points to himself as if asking if he is to sit there. King Arthur is seated to the right of the empty chair, and following on to his right are Sir Bors, Sir Kay, Sir Lamorac, Sir Gawain, Sir Palomides, Sir Percival, Sir Lancelot, and Sir Hector de Marys. Galahad, who is Lancelot's son, is not shown in the scene, and he is the only knight worthy of attaining the Grail, which is said to be emphasized by the doves that you can see on the roof there, which are said to symbolize the Holy Spirit. The foreground foliage of the tapestries was designed by Derl and has similarities to the millefleur motif found in early Flemish tapestries. Despite this medieval connection and Durell's skill at botanical illustration, Burne-Jones is said to have complained that Durell's flowers cluttered up his design. And here we can see the summons in situ at Stanmore Hall, demonstrating the impressive scale of these tapestries. It's fortunate that the Studio magazine photographed the tapestries in situ, and there was an article accompanying these beautiful images, and it describes the whole commission. It says, "The whole room is a noteworthy monument to the art of the two great men who produced it, and to the energy of the one who not merely revived the ancient craft, but reared up a number of trained workers to carry on its best traditions. Among the many works of the decorative revival, as initiated and developed by Morris, there is scarce one so complete and so important as this. For it is the only example of a complete series of Arras tapestries designed and wrought for a given room, and so alone stands memorable." And here we have Burne-Jones's study for the summons, with the knights either nude or partially clothed. The second tapestry is the arming and departure of the Knights of the Round Table on the quest of the Holy Grail. Here we can see the ladies of King Arthur's court arming the knights mounted on their horses, located just outside Camelot's walls. On the far left is Queen Guinevere handing a shield to Lancelot, an allusion to their adulterous affair, while two ladies to Lancelot's right are about to hand him a shield and a sword and a helmet. Sir Gawain on the far right is identified through the eagle on his shield. And here we can see the arming and departure of the knights in situ at Stanmore Hall. The third scene depicts the failure of Sir Owain and Sir Gawain. Again, we can see his eagle on his shield there. Burne-Jones shows the two knights on horseback outside a ruined chapel. Brambles are shown growing around the door of the chapel to suggest disuse and neglect, and an angel bars the way. Like the other tapestries we'll look at, the angels are dressed in beautiful robes with lovely detail designed by Morris and Durell. The presence of the Grail within the chapel is suggested by the bright light shining through the grille in the door. The knights are deemed unworthy of seeing the Grail because of their previously sinful lives. And here we can see that same tapestry on display as it originally looked in the dining hall. The failure of Lancelot is on the same theme as the previous scene. Lancelot also fails to achieve the Grail due to his adultery with Guinevere. Burne-Jones presents him sleeping outside the Grail chapel, and another angel bars him from gaining entry. The angel points at Lancelot's shield, indicating that he has carried it for Guinevere, not for God, and his failure in the Grail quest is a direct result of his adulterous love for Guinevere. The tapestry also has similarities to Rossetti's image, Sir Lancelot's vision of the Sanct Grail, a mural from the Oxford Union scheme I referred to earlier, showing Lancelot asleep on the right-hand side outside the chapel of the Grail. So that's the actual painting in the Oxford Union, and here is Rossetti's study for that mural with a caricature alongside it. So again, you can see on the right-hand side, Rossetti's Lancelot asleep, Guinevere, who's posed by Jane Burden in the centre there, and then the Angel of the Grail on the left-hand side there. And those sort of quatrefoil shapes are where the windows of the Oxford Union would be. Burne-Jones greatly admired Rossetti's mural, saying that it represented the highest character of Rossetti's work. And it was Burne-Jones himself who was depicted as the sleeping knight. The one significant change is that the angel replaces Guinevere in Burne-Jones's depiction in our tapestry. And here we can see the tapestry at Stanmore Hall. Our next tapestry is the smallest in the series, the ship, and it illustrates the journey of the quest from England to Saras, the spiritual city and home of the Grail. The ship depicted is anchored off a mountainous coast, and here we can see like the beach, the seashore, complete with some lovely shells there. And then we have 4 verdure panels with deer and the knight's shields. And they have Gothic script describing the scenes, and that they were designed by Durl and Morris. 60 of the 150 knights summoned to the quest have these heraldic devices, several of which are featured in this tapestry. The attainment is the stunning culmination of the quest with Galahad's vision of the Grail. Of the 150 that went on the quest, only 3 knights are chosen and may set foot on the shore: Sir Bors, Sir Percival, and Sir Galahad. Of these, Bors and Percival may see the Grail from a distance, with 3 angels barring their way. Two of these angels carry candles, and the third holds a spear that is said to have pierced Christ's side at the crucifixion, and blood drips into the dish she holds. Christine Poulsen, who's written a lot about medieval legends and Morris, has pointed out that as in the Oxford Union murals, there's a strong female presence in the tapestries. A woman summons the knights, and it is women who will arm them, as well as appearing as angels of the Grail, having the power to withhold or present the Grail. Only Galahad is pure enough to view the Grail immediately outside the chapel through an open door. Lilies spring up where he kneels, symbolizing his purity. The chapel that houses the Grail is set in a forest landscape surrounded by Durl's glorious flowers. And behind the altar, 3 angels kneel in prayer. The Holy Spirit appears in the form of a flame or wind, and strips of blood drip down from it into the chalice. The attainment also has echoes of Rossetti's work, such as his Sir Galahad at the Ruined Chapel from 1859, and his Sir Galahad, Sir Bors and Sir Percival receiving the San Grail from 1864. Burne-Jones's study of the attainment shows the scene without the later addition of Durl's floral foreground. And here we have the study by Burne-Jones from his sketchbook at Birmingham Art Gallery of the chalice. The Grail was said to be the vessel used by Christ at the Last Supper, and afterwards by Joseph of Arimathea to catch the blood flowing from Christ's side during the crucifixion. And here we can see the study for the head of the right-hand angel in the group of 3 guarding the Grail inside the chapel. The attainment tapestry hung above serving tables and a door, which required the tapestry to be made to fit the space, hence the odd shape at the far right. And we know that the Society's platinum prints were photographed from the Stanmore Hall tapestries, as we also have the missing space on the lower right of our prints, as you can see here, where that's the space where the door at Stanmore Hall would have been. Further versions of the quest were created after the Stanmore Hall tapestries. 3 of the series of 6 tapestries were woven in 1895 to 6 for Lawrence Hodgson of Compton Hall in Wolverhampton, and were acquired by Birmingham Art Gallery in 1907. In 1898 to 9, a 3rd and complete set was commissioned for George McCulloch, an Australian colleague of Darcy's, and hung in his house at 184 Queen's Gate, London. McCulloch's tapestries were exhibited widely and received much publicity. In the 1980s and 1990s, they came on the market, and the summons was acquired by Birmingham, with the remaining panels being bought by Andrew Lloyd Webber. Additional panels were woven in the 20th century, with the last completed in 1932. The Holy Grail tapestries continue to captivate and feature in exhibitions to this day. In recent years, the Society's platinum prints were displayed with this attainment tapestry from McCulloch's collection at Modern Art Oxford in 2014 in the Jeremy Deller curated exhibition, Love is Enough, William Morris and Andy Warhol, which some of you may have seen. Our platinum prints then travelled to Spain in 2017 to 18 to the Foundation One March in Madrid, before touring to the Catalonia National Art Museum in Barcelona to feature in their Morris and Company and the Arts and Crafts Movement in Great Britain exhibition. And here we can see the Stanmore Hall version of the tapestries being hung at that exhibition. And this version of the attainment has been owned by Jimmy Page, lead guitarist of Led Zeppelin since 1978. Some of you may have seen this tapestry when it featured recently in the Burne-Jones exhibition at the Tate in 2018. And I was fortunate enough to travel to Spain, to Madrid and Barcelona, to oversee the installation of the Society's objects in this exhibition. And I took some close-up photographs of this stunning attainment tapestry, particularly the Grail angels on the right-hand side, kneeling behind the altar. So here's my close-up of the tapestries, and it was such a treat to be able to see the tapestries at such close hand. Morris and Company's Holy Grail tapestries are justifiably considered one of the most outstanding achievements of the arts and crafts movement. They represent the culmination of the collaborative artistic talents of Morris and Burne-Jones and are a fitting testament to the end of their remarkable careers. Thank you very much for listening this morning. And if anybody has any comments or questions, I'll do my best to answer them. If anybody wants to type anything into the chat function, and while before I forget, I should just mention that the Society's next event will be a fascinating lecture by Michael Robertson, and that's on Tuesday, the 17th of May, and that's going to be about Morris's utopian designs. So I'm really looking forward to watching that one. And I think that's the only thing I needed to remember to do. Somebody, Cherry has asked about the names of the name of the person who designed the flowers. That was John Henry Durrell. He started off as an apprentice with Morris and Company. He was extremely talented, went on to design tapestries and stained glass and wallpapers and textiles. And he became so involved with the firm that after Morris's death, he became artistic director of Morris and Company and remained with the firm. And then his son Duncan took over from him after he left the firm. And Durrell, as well as producing these beautiful foreground foliage and flowers in these tapestries, some of his work is actually it was very similar to the Morris and Company style, and it's very difficult sometimes to tell the difference between Morris's designs, for instance, wallpapers and textiles from Durrell's. And some of the most famous Morris and Company designs, like Golden Lily, were actually designed by Durrell. And just see if we've got any other questions. Oh, somebody's asked, it's lovely to see them in situ. I'm sorry for the poor quality of those Stanmore Hall images. They're from the Studio magazine from 1898, so they're not the best quality. Somebody's asked, is there a book where it's possible to see all 4 of the shield tapestries? I don't think I've come across a book with all 4 of them in. I've got several books that refer to the tapestries. There's interesting books like, I don't know if people can see this, William Morris in the Middle Ages. So that's got some of them in, but not complete. Linda Parry's written about them in her William Morris textile books. The recent, some people might have the original, but there's a new version of the William Morris 96 exhibition catalogue, which also has the tapestries in them, but again, not a complete set. I'd say one of the best little books about the tapestries, if people can see this. This is by Helen Proctor, and it was produced for Birmingham Museums and Art Gallery. Again, though, it doesn't have, unfortunately, the complete set of the tapestries in there. It has quite nice large. I don't know if people can see this or not. A nice one of the versions, but not the complete ones. But hopefully that might combining them all, you probably will get a very good sort of view of the tapestry series there. Oh, somebody's asked if we know who any of the models were. Unlike the paintings by Burne-Jones and Rossetti, where we often know who the models are, I've not actually come across in all the research anybody referring to who modelled for these. So I'm not sure if they were taken, so I'm not sure, obviously they were modelled on real people, but we don't actually know their names, unfortunately. For many of Burne-Jones's oil paintings, we do know the names of the models. If people saw the Love Among the Ruins talk that I did last year, there were two possibilities for the male figure of that, which I've mentioned. So whether he was one of an Italian model, and the main one, and he was one of Burne-Jones's favourite models, so perhaps he was maybe used again. But as I've said, unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any research about the models that we used, or for the female figures and the Guinevere and the angels either. I mean, certainly none of them look to me like any of the Morris Circle, like Jane, for instance. They don't look like them, but the angels are particularly in the sort of Burne-Jones vein of his sort of the stunning females that he drew. But yeah, unfortunately, I can't help with that one. This about Dearle. So he just the spelling of his name. Somebody's asked. It's Dearle. John Henry Dearle. And he's becoming sort of more well known, I think, now for his the enormous contribution he made to Morris and Company. Oh, sorry, I think somebody's already beat me to it. Somebody, thank you, Martin. You've already spelled his name out there. And Morris, as well as submitting contributions to the designs, he also supervised with Burne-Jones sort of the overall composition, and supervised sort of the whole commission there. But yes, it was really and he also helped to contribute to some of the embroidered robes on the angels and the female figures like Guinevere and the arming of the knights as well. So he made other contributions as well. And to that, and obviously was responsible for the overall scheme and the colouring as well. And somebody's asked about the William Morris Society. We're not actually open at the moment. We're still closed. Unfortunately, there was a flooding incident last year, and it means we're still actually closed, but we are hoping to reopen next month, all being well. But please do look at our website for further updates on that as the renovation work progresses. Updates will be on our website when we can reopen. And when we do reopen, you'll be able to see the coach house and the lower floors of Kelmscott House. The main part of the house, as always, is private, but the lower floors and the coach house are open. And there'll be a lovely exhibition on display, as well as being online shortly, about May Morris. It's her 160th anniversary of her birth this year, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that exhibition when we're back open again. Oh, and I think, sorry, I'm a bit slow reading the messages. Kathy has already kindly answered that question. And Catherine has kindly mentioned about Birmingham Museum showing them every 5 years. Yes, because their tapestry is light sensitive. If they're on display too long, the light damages the fibres of textiles and fades the natural dyes there. So they're limited in how often they can show them. So I think hopefully I've gone through everybody's questions and comments. Oh, and somebody's mentioned about, Duncan's mentioned about an opportunity for a high quality reproduction. I think that's a lovely thing to do, because I mean, some of my images are not the best that I've shown in here, but the best that I could source. I think that's a good idea. So I think hopefully that's everybody's questions answered, and I'd just like to thank everybody once again for joining us and for your very kind support of the William Morris Society. It's a pleasure to be with you as always, and it's a real treat for me to be able to look in detail at some of the lovely items we have in our collection. So I do hope you can join us again. We're doing these coffee mornings quarterly now, so the next one will be in July, and further details of that will be advertised on our website, as all our events are. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.